My tios and tias used to tease me and have me say this old nursery rhyme that has a lot of R's in it, which was R con R cigarro, R con R barril, rápido con las. And like they would say like, Diego, 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 say this, say this, say this. And they would tease me, my own family. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Bien, ¿y tú?
Let's do this.
Right.
We are going to be talking about Pochismo today.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I have a lot of experience with Pochismo.
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 Okay.
Pocho is a term that I've heard growing up. It generally refers to a Latino who is not very Latino, whatever that means.
They don't know how to speak Spanish, they don't really know the culture, but you know, they're from there and they identify as Latino. But then the family from over there comes around and they're like, hola mijo, and they're like, oh, hi tío. They don't know how to speak Spanish, so then they're like, ¿por qué no habla español kind of thing?
Pocho.
I am a Latino who doesn't speak fluent Spanish. I'm definitely into everything else, like the food and stuff like that, because who doesn't like tacos?
In Miami, we just call those people gringos. They just don't speak any Spanish. They might understand Spanish, and they might be culturally aware of all the things about being Latino, but they just don't speak Spanish.
It's someone who just doesn't, for whatever reason, jive with the culture or the way people think that you're supposed to jive with the culture.
I've been actually called a poncha because I'm a Latino who doesn't speak fluent Spanish. For a long time, it was kind of a negative connotation because I always wanted to be able to be a part of the Latino community.
Mostly by my pops, but just in a joking way.
And then, I was Mexican. My family's Mexican. I go to Mexico, I see my family, and then I came to California. We moved to LA when I was 14, and then I became acutely aware of the difference of experience that I had in my upbringing than other folks. And I heard that too, like, you're not Latino enough.
I came to the US when I was 7 years old from Venezuela, so my Spanish was pretty on top. But whenever I do go back to Venezuela or Panama, because my dad moved to Panama, and I start trying to speak Spanish, like you said, I start stuttering. I'm like, how do you say that word? And my dad's the one. He doesn't call me pocha, but he'll be like, ta gringa.
When I moved down to California, I heard all of these derogatory terms, and I felt awful. Like I wasn't given a Latino identity growing up.
And my tios and tias used to tease me and have me say this old nursery rhyme that has a lot of R's in it, which was R con R cigarro, R con R barril, rápido con las. And like they would say like, Diego, 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 say this, say this, say this. And they would tease me. My own family in Mexico would tease me about it.
I'm already trying to speak 2 languages in my brain. I'm trying to speak Spanish, I think in English, and it's so much in my brain that when I start stuttering and they start kind of making fun of me, I get annoyed.
I realized that there's so much more kind of out there for me to take in and assimilate as part of my Latinidad.
I personally don't think that you need to speak Spanish to be considered Latino. You can't help how you're raised and the social environment that you're given. Those are just the circumstances. It's not fair, I guess, to judge someone based on those things.
Not at all. That is in your blood, that is in your DNA, that is in your descendants' blood and aura and spirituality.
It's not the end-all be-all of Latinidad that you have to speak Spanish to be considered a Latino. Latinidad is where you're from and where your family's from.
Society really adamantly thinks that you have to have dark skin and you have to speak Spanish in order to be Latino, and you have to have grown up with this very stereotypical culture. That's just not the thing anymore.
It's not like they're less of a person at all. It's just that sometimes speaking Spanish lets you connect to your culture, to your grandmas, to the stories that they made.
There are Black Latinos, there are Asian Latinos, there are white Latinos, there are indigenous Latinos. I'm married to another Mexican, and his family has indigenous background, and our experience as 2 Mexicans who grew up in this country is vastly different. There's no one way to boil it down. I think it's hard. Learning a separate language in the context of a country where that's not the main language is difficult.
A lot of the Mexican Americans they want to pass as white, and like they don't try to embrace that.
Some Latinos, their parents weren't able to teach them. Maybe those parents felt ashamed, and so they didn't want to pass it on. I have a friend from college who said her dad, who was Puerto Rican, didn't teach her Spanish on purpose because he was ashamed. He's like, I want you to be as American as possible.
Dude, you could get your papers, you could learn English, and you
both.
could still be yourself. You didn't have to erase any part of you.
When you grow up without an identity for the culture or the ethnicity or the race that you are, it's really difficult, and you almost feel as though you don't belong anywhere.
There are things culturally or even in language too, that in America it's okay and it's cool and it's like who we are, but then having family that is from Mexico, Guatemala, they don't understand that. So they're like, ay, no, eso está raro. Like, ay, ¿por qué escuchas esa música?
All of my parents, they're very funny people. They are so funny, and I definitely know that I got my comedy from them. But I also know that a lot of my comedy, as far as when I'm on screen, is very American. I remember one time I went to Venezuela, and I went to see Step Brothers, the movie. And I was so excited to see it because I love Will Ferrell, and I bring my cousin who's from Venezuela with me to go to the movies. And I'm watching it, and I'm just like, and we were watching it with subtitles, and my cousin was like, this is so stupid. What's so funny about this? They're acting like children. And I'm like, exactly, it's funny. And in Venezuela, acting like children is not funny. You know what I mean? They're like, that's not funny. In America, it is funny. It's like, oh, a man-child. That's funny. In Venezuela, it's like, that's irresponsible.
California really helped me kind of fall more in love with my own culture and learn to appreciate it in a different way than what my family had taught me. What makes somebody a real Latino is being Latino. Wherever they're born, if their family has origins in a Latin American country or culture, you're Latino.
Sometimes I don't feel as Latina in my cooking.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I should know how to cook more, and it makes me feel a little bit less Latina.
My personal holdup is the language, because that really sets me apart from a lot of like the people and their stereotypes and their judgments, is that I'm not like a full, fluent Spanish-speaking Latino. And people are like, but you're not Latino. I'm like, I can barter like a Latino. Okay, so that was what I was born with that. I go to Mexico. When I went to Chichen Itza, I am a bartering queen.
The difference in being real or not, or how people perceive is real, is whether or not you have the resources and the tools to be able to express that culture.
I do feel the need, and maybe it's a personal thing, when I'm with my American friends to overcompensate and over-articulate and, be a little bit more American, right? And then when I'm with my family, I also feel the need to overcompensate and throw in my little Venezuelan accent so they can remember that I am Venezuelan, that I'm not as gringa as they think I am. So I'm constantly sometimes struggling between these two different worlds of being American and being Venezuelan and not having an accent when I speak English, or not having a gringa accent when I speak Spanish.
And I don't think it takes away. I think it's just a broader repertoire of like cultural skills, It's like, if you can enjoy this cuisine, that cuisine, you can speak this language and that language. If you can enjoy, Spider-Man, y el Hombre Araña, like, you can enjoy all those things at once. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
You connect. You connect to who you are, and I feel like you break that mask that we put on for other people. And it's just like when it's the most real, or when we're being the most real, that's when we feel the best.
You can enjoy diverse cultures and ideas and make them as your own, because it's about individuality. We're like snowflakes. Humans are like snowflakes, right? There's not one of us is exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so we shouldn't have to just subscribe to the same thing as somebody else just because that's what society thinks that we should do.
Are you familiar with the word Pocho?
Pocho?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No. I have not before this either.
I don't know why some other people think they're more Mexican than the others.
Do you think that you need to speak Spanish to be Latino?
No, just as long as you like respect the whole, like whatever the beliefs are, and just make sure you feel connected in somehow to like the Latino roots, then you're good.
My impulse is it definitely helps. No one in my family speaks Spanish, and it's always felt a little bit uncomfortable to call myself Latina.
I grew up and I born and raised in Mexico. I just moved here like, I don't know, I don't feel more Mexican than anybody here.
To America, we're all the same. But no, we're different people in our community. Latinos come from everywhere. Different cultures, different religions, different languages. That makes nobody else better than the other.
My biggest takeaway from talking with Angel was that I should not be as judgmental with pochos, mostly because I didn't think that there's some parents that did feel ashamed about speaking Spanish to their kids because they wanted their kids to assimilate to the American culture.
If you have the resources and the means to experience your culture and kind of learning to navigate that alongside the pressures you get from within your community and outside your community to be a certain kind of Latino or a certain kind of American, there isn't a right way to do it.
You know, there are hundreds of Latinos out there who feel the exact same way that we do, that we are not good enough or that we don't speak the language, so we're not Latino enough. I am Latino enough, and we are Latino enough.
You don't have to judge someone for not speaking Spanish because sometimes they couldn't have, and you don't know their story. So as long as they're learning and want to or not, it's up to them.
Hey guys, I'm Geneva and I directed this episode of Latinos Talk. Pochismo is near and dear to my heart. Growing up between two cultures, you either learn the languages or you sometimes don't, and it does not mean that you are any less Latino. We want to hear your thoughts and insight on this topic. Drop in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going.